And welcome to a brand new episode of That Toy Light, because we are down one today.
Oh no, we're not missing anybody. Nobody's missing, obviously.
That is true. We're not missing anybody. We're the two most important people are here. That's all that matters.
I have to say that intro music was very soothing. I was
Yes,
just
it
like
was.
I felt like I was about to start like doing a studio album, a terrible studio album.
Yes, it's the default StreamYard countdown music. So that's pretty cool. So Austin is not here tonight. He's dealing with some things in his personal life. He should be back next week though. So we'll welcome him back. So tonight's gonna be a light night. We're probably not gonna go the full. What do we usually do? An hour?
Yeah,
or so.
around that.
But we are going to talk spoilers about some things that Austin hasn't seen. So now we can talk about them. Yes, one of which includes Spider-Man No Way Home, and we'll try to get to Hawkeye and maybe the latest episode of the Book of Boba Fett and maybe some Cobra Kai, if we can fit it all in. Just depends on how things go. So let's start off with Spider-Man No Way Home. And I wanted to get your first thoughts after you saw it. After the minute you walked out of the theater, what did you think?
I was blown away, like in it, but by the end of it, because of the actual ending sequence, I think I was. It's funny because we had the whole thing with Tom Holland actually confirming that he's doing a new trilogy now, and it makes perfect sense because of how it ended, because he is now a fully realized version of Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man now that can't rely. He's not going to be relying on Stark Tech anymore. Stuff like that. I love that. He had his own journey now, and it's kind of that's kind of been one of my little pet peeves I've kind of had with like his whole thing was so much reliance on the MCU at large around him. So seeing him put into this, it's a terrible situation he's in, and that fits Spider-Man because Peter sometimes has made terrible choices that are for better, but for him they end up being worse for him.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. It fit the character, and so I was kind of at the end of that. I was like, okay, I'm fully on board for where they're going to go next with him.
So what about like the theater experience? Did you go with like a bunch of people? I mean, was there a bunch of people in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
But it wasn't bad. We didn't get sick or anything. But that was probably one of the biggest theater experiences I've probably had since Endgame, I think. I wanted to say it's been a long time, but you know what? The Endgame and Infinity War did have pretty big. I don't know if they were as visceral because there's a lot of nostalgia that's put into No Way Home. So there were a lot of moments where people were like seriously like cheering when certain moments happened. Like, spoilers, here we go.
Yep.
When first Andrew Garfield popped in, people started getting, all excited. And I even got excited. I didn't I was kind of like squirming in my seat.
Yeah.
And then when Toby just like shadowed, his shadowed form just stepped through the portal in the most Sam Raimi possible way because the portal closed behind him. He's just kind of confused about it.
Yep.
It just felt like a big Sam Raimi moment. But the theater was going crazy. And one big part I'll talk about later, but there was a big part with Andrew that is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie altogether. Like one of them. There were a lot of great parts, but there were a lot of great parts in the film, but that moment was just, for me, it was great just because of the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
I think you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was great. Yeah, so mine was like similar to yours. The theater was packed. We went to like the GTX, so we went to the Big Daddy in Augusta. And dude, the first time people cheered, Charlie Cox walked into the room.
Oh yeah,
everybody was like, "Whoa!"
That was a great scene. I love that sequence. That was.
Then when he caught the brick. Oh gosh! And he said,
"How did you do that?" I'm a really good lawyer.
Really good lawyer. Yeah, I mean everybody cheered for that. But yeah, when Andrew even when even though we'd already seen it in the trailers when Doc Ock first appeared, you had people cheering. When the Green Goblin appeared, you had people cheering. I don't remember so much like Jamie Foxx and the Lizard and Sandman. I don't remember those, I don't remember cheers from that. But then, of course, when Andrew Garfield came out, it was like, the place just exploded.
Yeah. And speaking of Charlie Cox, though, there's a funny little connection in there in that scene, because if you remember, one other actor was involved in that scene who does have a Daredevil history.
Yep, Happy Hogan.
Yeah, Jon Favreau, back in the day. And it's funny, me and my wife just watched it again recently. I watched it again. I showed it to her for the first time. We watched the 2003 Daredevil. The director's cut. The director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut. You don't need to watch anything else.
Oh yeah, I found a digital copy, $5, and I was like, I like I don't hate the movie. I enjoyed it. I think it gets a lot of flack. And it's got its moments, like the little courtyard fight, the playground fight. That's terrible to look back on.
Yeah,
but it's got some good stuff. Like he was a beaten down hero, vigilante, and something we really hadn't seen that much of.
And speaking of Ben Affleck as Daredevil, did you see the other rumors that are going around?
Nope. What other rumors?
So Marvel did offer him some money to come back in a small cameo for Doctor Strange.
Really?
In the Multiverse of Madness as Daredevil.
Huh. Well, in that case, it'd probably be more like Matt Murdock, though, probably, wouldn't it?
Yeah, who knows if he's going to get in the suit, or is it just Matt Murdock, or
or just the cowl, and you just see him from the face.
Probably, yeah. I imagine they'll do something like
that. Ben is such a weird topic in terms of superhero movies now, because, and I don't have any ill will against him, because when you read about the stuff he'd been going through at the time, it was really for the best for him to do what he did and make his decisions, But I remember when he did Daredevil, I didn't hate his performance as Matt Murdock. I enjoyed the movie. But he looks back on it, as like a mark of humiliation, which is, a sad thing to do. Like I've seen it in interviews where he talks about it like it's a mark of shame for him. I don't know if he's gotten it recently, like maybe he's had a change of heart since doing Batman.
I think because when it came out, it was very, poorly. There was a poor reception for that movie, and it wasn't until the actual director's cut came out that people were like, "Wow,
there was a good movie."
Really that bad? Yeah,
really, and it was bad. Yeah, I won't be surprised, because Fox at the time, because they had the rights, they did have those strict, you want to get as many seats as, you want to fill as many seats and as many show times within a day as possible. And the best way to do that is to keep a movie around that 190-minute mark, or under 2 hours. And that movie was only, I think, 100 minutes, 100 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty short. Yeah,
I mean, it's a gigantic chunk of story, just chopped right out of it. There's a whole mystery plot that's in the director's cut, and a whole other trial where Coolio is the defendant.
Yes, I forgot about that. It's been a while since I've seen the director's cut, but yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah,
and Kevin Smith was in it.
Yeah. I mean, he was in both versions, though, I think, wasn't he? Yeah. He because the Kane scene is in the theatrical version, because that's how Ben figures out that Matt is because it's the murder weapon for Elektra's father. And then when he sees that, I watched this movie too many times after it came out, because I bought the DVD and I watched it multiple times, even with the director's commentary I was watching. So I remember this scene being in there, because he mentioned that. I remember specifically the scene where it extends and he has the realization that it's Matt Murdock's Kane when he's touching it, when Joe Pantoliano is touching it. It's a CG Kane. It's not real.
I'm remembering some stuff now. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen Daredevil, just because I have bad memories of it.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: out of all the Fox owned, I'll say this outside of X-Men, out of all the Fox owned IP superhero movies, I would say that one was probably the best one they did outside of X-Men stuff, because Ghost Rider did not, what really fell short, I think.
The first one was okay. to me. The Spirit of Vengeance, like, what in the world is this crap I'm watching? You know,
I'll say like I'm almost the opposite, where I'm slight and I'll even admit like Spirit of Vengeance is still not a good movie.
Yeah,
but there's moves that the directors pulled and stuff that they did no other director in their right mind would have tried.
Yeah,
which I have to give them some credit for.
I guess from what I'm remembering from like the original Ghost Rider, Sideshow put out some awesome statues for that movie. Like
they had great marketing.
The Western Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
They made a statue out of it. Yeah,
when it's Sam Elliott playing him.
Yeah, but it was just the Ghost Rider. No Sam Elliott face. Man, that thing looked awesome. I remember almost wanting to, or almost pulling trigger on buying it, but I didn't. Back then. But anywho, back to Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Actually, I do have some notes for things in the movie that stood out that I really, really loved.
Okay.
I took these notes after just because I wanted to make sure I remember them if we ever got around to talking about it and discussing it. So one thing I really loved was the showcasing of how his spider sense can work without him even being conscious. When he got forced outside of Strange's body. Or not when Doctor Strange forced him out of his body and his spider sense was actually reflexing the box away. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was weird. Yep.
It seemed like it was a completely new thing for even him to realize when he saw it happen. He was,
because even Strange was like, "What?"
He didn't understand it. Another thing, the contrast between Andrew and Toby. Like almost as in like they're separate halves of Tom Holland's Parker, like crises that he's dealing with. Because in the cool little visuals that they did, which really showcases how different they are, was when we first see Andrew appear, he's in the spider suit. He comes in, he's in the spider suit. And as we learn later on, he's almost kind of left his Peter life behind. He's
Spider-Man.
He's just kind of committed just doing that, which is it's really sad because you see like he's fallen far since Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then Toby, when he comes through, he's just dressed in normal clothes. He's very calm. He seems like he's someone who's been to this rodeo before. He's figured out himself and his inner demons. So I love that contrast of them.
Yeah, and it was weird because I didn't think you would get. I mean, I knew they were going to be in the film going in. There was no way they couldn't not have them in that film. But I was surprised at the level of explanation they gave, like what's happened since the last time we've seen them up until now.
Yeah. And they also did it in a way that was kind of vague in a little bit, because I think Toby, we got vague notions of how his life's been going. Yeah. But it does seem like, I didn't notice any kind of wedding band on his finger. So he and MJ may not be married. I couldn't tell. I mean, did you notice?
No, there was. I don't think there was. But when they left off Spider-Man 3,
they were reconciling.
Yeah, there wasn't a real, will you marry me? It was just sort of, do we get back together?
Yeah. Well, that brings me to the second part where he did talk. He had that little heart-to-heart with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man about being able to balance that life, and he said, you'll figure it out, and you can work out. We figured it out too. We figured out how to make it work finally. So
and just the interactions between the three Spider-Man.
God,
that was just so cool. Just talking about their differences and the things that were the same.
Well, that's another thing. Like that's one reason I loved Andrew's return so much. Like he was one of the standout performances to me.
Me too.
And he had this very self-deprecating attitude, which kind of falls in with how he's feeling about himself. He's in a dark place when he shows up. So he's jealous of the fights that they've had. Toby's fought an alien goo. And Tom Holland's fought a alien in space.
In space.
Space.
Yeah.
So that's cool. We're going to go back to that part where you talked about the space thing.
But, in the little time that they were in the movie, though, you could see a growth in Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Most definitely. Because he ends the movie at a lot different headspace than he begins the movie in.
Oh yeah, when he shows up, especially when he starts to open up, you kind of find out how he is. You kind of realize he seems like he's a very lonely person. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he'd cut himself off from his Aunt May. Maybe just out of sheer fear of like losing her as well. But that was his especially the big moment that happens with him, which was MJ falling, and then you see Tom try to dive down. He gets hit by the Goblin glider, and then you see Andrew jump down. But what's cool is if you really watch it, like he propels himself. Like there's a part when he goes over the little the rafters. Yeah, you can see his foot actually like angle down and push off. Like it's almost. And so I remember reading someone bring it up. It's like you got to think that he's probably had this go over his head a million times of how he could have made it work. How he could have done it right. To save Gwen. Yeah, and so he gets this moment where he saves her. Like he dives down so fast he just knocks aside a big rafter heading down toward her, and you see the moment where he breaks a little bit after he realizes he got her.
Oh yeah, dude. I was crying.
Yeah, I got choked up too.
I was crying. It was happy tears. Like he did it. He finally, saved her.
And then the end, and even like him having this connection with other versions of himself, where it was like I always wanted to have brothers, or right before they're about to go off and do the big fights, I'm like, I just want to say, I love you guys. And that was apparently ad-lib. That was ad-lib by Andrew Garfield, apparently, which was why Toby and Tom Holland look kind of really genuinely confused.
Like what? But, and then the make sure your web shooters are full. Web shooters. He's like, oh god, that whole scene.
Just him talking about it, where they ask him about it, and then they say like, we have to make it, and it's a hassle.
He's like, does it come out of anywhere else?
No,
just here.
I was wondering, because ever since the rumors started with that, I was wondering if there's going to be any addressing, because it's a pretty big obvious difference. Oh yeah. It had to come up at some point. It's like, do you have your web shooters? No, no, just right here.
And I'll say that Tom Holland did like a super fantastic job in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, especially that Aunt May scene. Spoiler alert, she dies.
Aunt May dies, yeah.
And it basically just takes the Uncle Ben and rotates it into Aunt May, given the whole with great power comes great responsibility stuff. But
and it fit into the story too, because it was she was telling him, even though it led to this bad place, you were doing the right thing. And because that, what he said, you have this power and you have this ability, even though it's that kind of danger, you were doing the right thing. And I loved that it, at first I was shocked by it, but it really fit, because we'd gotten, instead of her just being a plot device like Uncle Ben, he's always been, we don't know too much about Uncle Ben. He was always just, he was there. He was Peter's uncle, and then he got killed. But he has the sage-like talk where he tells me, don't, great power comes great responsibility. But using May, who we've gotten to know ever since Captain America: Civil War, and then having it happen to her, it hits us just as hard as it hits him.
Yes, she's been in 4 films.
Yeah,
but we do. I think in the last movie there was a reference to Uncle Ben.
It's a suitcase.
It has,
I think it
B.
has
Parker.
Like B.
B. Parker.
Which makes me wonder though, did he die? Like, it makes you wonder, like, is it a situation where he did die, or maybe he just he left or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but at this point, I mean, the end of the movie pretty much kills or doesn't kill anybody, but nobody remembers Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So they might know Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's done things with the Avengers, and but they don't know Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Which brings up interesting, story ideas going forward when Spider-Man interacts with the rest of the MCU.
Because he knows who these people are, but for him, he's gonna have to start over from scratch, basically rebuilding these relationships. And that's if he even tells them who he really is.
Yeah. And at the end when he goes to talk to MJ and Ned, I didn't know this, but one of my kids told me. She said, "Did you see the necklace around MJ's neck?" I was like, "No, I didn't even pay attention to that." She said, "Yeah, it was still broken, but she was wearing it." So I didn't know. So there's still some connection there. I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna leave it. Obviously, I don't think they're gonna get rid of Zendaya.
No. She's too big a draw.
So yeah, but yeah. Well, I did love their. Even though it's one of the more infamous Spider-Man stories, because there were a lot of, obviously there was a big moment that was very. New Day, which one is it? Is it Brand New Day or
Brand New Day? But right before Brand New Day, it was
One Last Day or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, or One Last
the storyline
or something. Yeah,
the storyline where Peter makes a deal with Mephistopheles to save Aunt May, right?
Yeah,
because she'd been sought by an assassin because of everybody knowing he's Spider-Man.
Yep.
So he made a deal with Mephistopheles to erase the world of his memory of his reveal.
Yep.
And the deal and the catch for that was MJ was going to both him and Mary Jane were going to forget that they were ever together. Their whole relationship was erased from existence. So yeah, and there were that moments where she was like saying, no matter what, we're gonna find our way back to each other. There were kind of hints of that, where she was telling me like, you're gonna find me after this, because if you don't come and find me, I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna be so mad at you. Which was I was getting choked up at that too. Like I was expecting, because like I said, I wasn't really too invested in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like I liked Homecoming. Far From Home kind of set me back a little bit. Yeah. But this one like completely won me over. This was absolutely the best out of those three movies, and God, it is. I put this up in the top tier, like near Spider-Man 2, like maybe ties with it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I like that we're finally getting like a very comic accurate Spider-Man
suit. Oh yeah, that suit at the end was gorgeous. I wanted to see a good still shot of him in it, like just to see it. But that you could like the bright blues. It was I loved it seeing it, and I loved that because it looked like I think he had Aunt May's knitting machine. I think it was a knitting. So he made this one himself. I love that they had that.
They've truly taken him back to.
He's back to basics.
Really is.
Yeah, he's back to basics. He's like I said. Yeah, it brings him kind of full circle to the Spider-Man from the comics, which he's back to basics. Like I said, like he can't rely on Stark Tech, or he won't. He's not going to rely on it anymore.
It's just him and his knowledge.
Yeah,
and I think that's best too, because now going forward, he has to get a job at probably the Daily Bugle. Either going the ultimate route where he's some web designer for the Daily Bugle, or he can be the photographer.
Inevitably, Daily Bugle's got to get involved, because they even missed out on doing it in Amazing Spider-Man, that whole series. I think they hinted at it. Like we got text messages, I think, from J. Jonah Jameson, and that was the closest we got. But do you think that with how J.J. Jameson is currently set, he's like an Alex Jones fringe journalist?
I think the next movie will set him up as all this coverage he's done of whatever this whole movie was, probably blows up the Daily Bugle to some massive like TMZ type level.
Well, I was gonna say like outlet. Is his news called the Daily Bugle? I thought it was called something else, because
I thought it was
Was it the Daily Bugle?
I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't.
All I was thinking was, because I assumed, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I was thinking, like, if we get the Daily Bugle, like traditional Daily Bugle, big building, Flatiron type building, I was wondering, since J. Jonah Jameson seems like this kind of fringe, if they go another route, and maybe Robbie Robertson's the editor in chief at the moment, or something like that. Maybe JJ used to be the editor in chief, and then he got fired for being too crazy.
I think that
or I could be.
I think the Daily Bugle is the website.
Okay.
It's the Daily Bugle.
Okay, it is. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's legit.
Okay, so I really forgot.
I mean, are you got some more on your list?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, another thing I forgot to mention it earlier, but it has to do with spider sense stuff, but it was so brilliantly filmed the moment when Peter realized something was wrong in the Stark office, in the Stark place they were living at, when he realized
Green Goblin was up to something.
Well, he didn't even know that yet. He just knew something
was off.
There's this moment where you just see like his spider sense was going off, and he just knew. There's just like this moment, like Barry. It's kind of like, oh god, anxiety, like the way the camera's focused on him, and he's kind of just walking around. It's kind of meant to make you uncomfortable and almost anxious. So I just love the way that was filmed, because you see this like slow realization of him trying to figure out what's going on. And he finally does when he hits Goblin with it. But I loved that. A very creative use. And another thing, highlight of the film, the Goblin fight in the building with Tom Holland and
where he beat the crap out of
wow. Yeah. And the thing was, like, he was, and that was him pulling his punches apparently, but this was a fight he'd never fought anybody this strong, I don't think. Nobody. And even pulling his punches, and you could see like they were still heavy punches, and every single punch, Norman just smiled at him through every single one. There's that crazed look he did when he kind of like, I think he jumped up on him, and he was like on it, like basically on his shoulders, just punching him. And every time he would punch me, he'd look right back at him, just with that crazed smile. And
Willem Dafoe did a great job in this movie too, man. I mean, he was awesome.
I think he did a lot of his own stunts for it too. I think, like he said, if we're going to be seeing my face, I should definitely be doing this. So,
But I noticed how quickly they went from mask to Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
because you only saw the Green Goblin mask right at the beginning there when he first appeared,
and then he just got zapped away by Doctor Strange, or Peter got zapped away from it by Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and that was it for the mask. Yeah. That was cool.
And did you think there was a red herring thing that was going to happen, or there's a moment, when they first cured Otto of his, of the insanity from the AI, and when Jamie turned, after Norman turned, and he hit him with the lightning, were you wondering if it was going to fry it all over again?
Maybe, I don't know. There was so much going on at that point. I really wasn't paying attention to it. But
he kind of disappeared from the film until he popped up at the end. So I think that was on purpose. I think they were trying to make you think like, is he going to help them, or is he going to be back to what he was before?
Yeah.
But I did like that, from that point on, once they cured him, he was helping them out from, for the rest of the film. I loved that.
Well, I will say, do you think, or did you think they were killing off Tobey Maguire right there at the end when he got stabbed?
I think so. I was a little worried.
Yeah, I mean, but because it seems like it was like, I don't know the purpose of doing that.
Yeah.
If you're not like totally hurting the guy.
I think it was to, I guess it was to I think it was maybe for a moment to give that choice back again to Holland's Spider-Man again, to make him make the right choice. And then he did that time.
Yeah.
So, he has that moment, because, and I love that moment too, between them when Toby caught it, and he just gave him that stare, that very wordless gaze between them. That was kind of the whole, this is not you. This is not who we are. You know, this is not. I love that because no dialogue. You could feel the energy of what was being said just through the acting alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, and once he cooled off, and then you had him taken out of the equation again, he has the choice comes again to give him the chance to make the right decision, and he does this time to cure him.
Yeah,
I did like that he shrugged it off pretty quick though. He's like, "Yeah, I've been stabbed before."
Yeah, my back.
Or the what was it? Their final line, before he left was, "Oh, you're in so much pain, aren't you?" Oh yeah,
so much. Yeah,
but yeah, that God, there's just so much to talk about with this movie.
And I think that just the possibilities this movie opens up, especially for Doctor Strange, because there's been a lot of rumors about what we're getting. Like, just you thought Spider-Man was good. Wait till you see Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's stuff going around about the possibility we might get Andrew back in the spider suit again, which I don't think it's going to be as much for Toby. He seems like he might be interested, maybe, but I imagine it's going to be very limited appearances. He doesn't seem like he wants to be the star of a film. He seems like, I think he enjoyed the mentor role that he played like in.
So here's things that I've heard, and maybe and you can tell me if you've heard these.
Okay.
There's definitely an Amazing Spider-Man 3 coming out.
I don't know if I've heard that. I've heard like of him. What I've heard so far is maybe something about him maybe existing within the Eddie Brock Venom universe. That might be where they exist and they don't even realize each other were there, maybe. Or
I've heard that he's filmed some stuff for Morbius, which is one of the reasons that it's been pushed back a little bit. Yeah.
Well, considering how the multiverse is working right now, and that's another thing. What's Michael Keaton's role going to be? Because we got confirmation from this film that Eddie Brock doesn't, the Eddie Brock we've watched in Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage isn't part of the main, the MCU Spider universe. It's part of its own thing. So, unless Michael Keaton's maybe he's another version of Adrian Toomes, or he might be someone new altogether.
Yeah, who knows, man?
That's an interesting thing. Like that's just something I thought was really, really interesting. Finding that out because they showcased him. I think they showcased him again in the last trailer for Morbius.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they can't just be showing Michael Keaton for no reason. So I think they got
Michael
Keaton's all over superhero stuff right now.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that they are definitely both Spider-Man, Andrew and Toby are coming back for the next major Marvel event film, Secret Wars.
I have not heard that, but I wouldn't mind that as long as they don't kill them off.
I think right now with the focus on the multiverse, I think they're going to play this out for the next few years.
Yeah,
as much as they can before consolidating again to something, the next big bad or whatever of the Marvel universe.
Galactus, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. All right. So you got any more for Spider-Man before we move on?
Well, also the reunions we had. Like, did you enjoy all the reunions we got between the different characters? What'd you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, every time and you're talking about the reunions between Jamie Foxx and
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
The big ones, because I will say I like their usage and, but you could kind of tell that Thomas Hayden Church wasn't really ever on set.
Oh yeah.
I think the final shot of him turning human again, I think was him.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, it was just footage. I think it was reversed footage of I think a moment from Spider-Man 3 when he was, which is, I get it, I guess. Maybe it was a COVID thing, or maybe it was a budget thing where it was just easier to do it this way, just paying for voice work and just use previously used footage since they owned the footage anyways.
Same thing for the dude who played Lizard.
For Lizard.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that final shot of him as Kurt Connors? Was that hit? It's a Reese Ifans.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So I wasn't sure about that because when I saw him just kind of sitting in there, I was wondering, like, what was that a shot from the film, or it could be unused footage that they used. But the big ones were like, Peter interacting with Norman and Otto, especially the one with Otto was great because they really, we got to see, in Spider-Man 2, their how much they liked each other. I still go back. I saw someone play the clip from Spider-Man 2 the other day where he had that terrible joke for his demonstration of did someone, did anybody lose a roll of, $20 bills wrapped in a tight rubber band? Because we found the rubber band. And then just Peter's gut busting laughter. And he's the only one laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because it was that kind of scientist camaraderie where it's just something only they would find funny. But I loved seeing them interact again. And I loved how simple it was, like Peter, how have you been doing? He's just like trying to do better, just kind of like, I've been trying to live how you kind of demonstrated. But that, and also like the little, I liked how things ended between Andrew's Spider-Man and Jamie Foxx's, kind of like hinting at Miles Morales, and also, the whole, eels.
Oh yeah, and Miles is gonna appear somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'm fully expecting the next trilogy to be a way to start introducing him.
I mean, because he was mentioned in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
No way,
he was Homecoming. He was Donald Glover's nephew because he was Prowler, Aaron Davis.
Yeah, so he's got to be in there at some point.
Yeah,
I think, but I would think it would be closer to the time. Maybe not. I would think it would be closer to the time you kill off Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Oh, I mean, I don't think you have to kill off Tom Holland's because they have been, even in the comics, they have gotten away from the idea that you can only have one Spider-Man.
True.
Yeah, even like the video game, they've made the big Spider-Man Marvel game world, 2 Spider-Man coexist.
Oh God, that's an awesome game, man.
And it looks like they're going to both be co-starring in the Marvel Spider-Man 2 game, coming up. So I'm curious what they're going to do. Like I'm really interested. It should be fun. So, a lot of stuff to go.
All right.
One last thing.
Okay.
What did you think of Peter, Tobey Maguire's like Peter, or like as a whole, because we got to talk a lot about Andrew.
He,
because he was much more subdued. We didn't get as much information. He was much more.
Yeah, I was more interested in Andrew for whatever reason, even though I liked Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Garfield just felt. I don't know. I was more interested,
compelled.
By Andrew Garfield's story than I was. And maybe it's because we've already seen 3 movies with Tobey Maguire and we only got 2. I don't know what the deal was.
I think I get what you're saying. Like, I think the reason, I'd say this the easiest reason was because he was not in a good place when we found him again. And also he didn't get to, his movie stuff kind of like it got short staffed, but I think the difference with that and Toby's was from the get-go, he came off as a character that was very much at peace with himself. It didn't seem like there was much conflict within him. So, you're going to naturally gravitate toward the character that does have more inner conflict. And, he definitely had that.
Yeah. And he just felt like an older, like I'm along for the ride kind of Peter Parker. He just wasn't very interesting to me, honestly. I mean, I was excited to see him when he came through that portal. Yay, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. But it was like, as the movie went on, okay.
He was as interesting as a youth pastor that he was dressed like.
That was the funniest line, man. Golly.
Swinging around dressed like a youth pastor.
Yep. That was funny. That was very funny.
But yeah, Spider-Man. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. And sorry for the spoilers.
Yes.
If you got to this point,
too late. Too late. Yeah, so let's talk Hawkeye, right? Okay. Quick. I know we're getting 40 minutes into this, so maybe we can wrap up with Hawkeye right quick. Try to keep it to 10 minutes or so. So what did you think about just the last episode? How everything wrapped up?
I enjoyed it. I flat out loved it. There's a lot of fun stuff in it. Like I love the whole Rockefeller Center. Showdown. I love the chemistry between Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld. Kate and it seems like they're setting them up to be almost like best friends, like Hawkeye and Black Widow before.
I can definitely see a movie level, a movie with those two in it.
Yeah, just the comedy between them was just gold. Like especially the elevator stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When she was fighting to not, to keep her from doing the most annoying thing possible in an elevator, which is hit all the buttons.
Yeah,
and she still did it, and she didn't even get mad. She's like an annoyed older sister, like, oh, so annoying.
Yeah, so I can definitely see like a buddy cop kind of movie where they headline it and they can hold it on their own. Yeah, that the chemistry between the two was just so phenomenal, so good.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this version of Kingpin?
I didn't have a problem with it. I know some people got mad because he got beaten by Hawkeye in his first appearance. First official, I guess, MCU's appearance since Daredevil, where he was a tough customer in Daredevil.
Yeah.
And to see him beaten, so but the thing was, she got lucky. No, there's no doubt about it.
Because up
until that point, like if she hadn't known her little flip trick from Clint, like she hadn't learned that, she'd be dead. That was a win by luck. That wasn't a win by skill.
No.
So that's what I chalk it up to. That's why I didn't have a problem with that. One thing I love. Did you like the showdown between Elena and Clint? How that wrapped up?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Him using the whistle to get through to her finally. I think I love that. That was especially I love the moment because when we see him do the whistle, he's just he's lying on the ground like he's beaten down. So there's something about it like it's almost like a person with their last breath just trying to and so this is what I got to do, and then he does it, and it finally gets through to her. She finally listens.
Yeah, the one thing. The show was actually Hawkeye was probably my favorite Disney Plus Marvel show.
Yeah, same
from this year
easily. Yeah,
I think though that the after credits thing was like the weakest.
I didn't mind it because I think the story for me, that was a good ending point for the story. So I didn't think it needed an after credits thing. So the whole musical number, I thought that was a fun treat to see the full version of what Clint had to suffer through, or he tried to suffer through.
Yeah, I just thought it would set up. I thought they would try to set up something, maybe with Elena and Kate.
Yeah,
or maybe sort of finally like truly wrap up Hawkeye, like maybe him passing the mantle of Hawkeye off to.
Well, considering how they ended it, it sounds like, if anything, it might continue kind of like how, at least from here on out, maybe kind of like the comics where two Hawkeyes exist and sometimes they team up, sometimes they do their own things.
Yeah, I just don't know. Do you think Jeremy Renner's coming back for anything? I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. So. I think I think this show may have reinvigorated his interest in the character, because when he started out, he kind of got shafted a bit by Joss Whedon because he got to finally appear as a main cast member, and then he gets shafted as a villain for like 2/3 of the film. So, and then Whedon kind of made it up to him a little bit in Age of Ultron, because he got a meteor role. We saw his home life. and and then Infinity War, he just wasn't there at all.
Yes, like where's the Hawkeye?
Well, he did have the small part in Civil War, but and then in Endgame, so I think having this much time with the character, I don't know, maybe it might, I don't think he has anything against playing the character again, so I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back.
It just seems like they're pushing him off.
I hope not, but yeah, I think it was. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney was kind of, and Marvel were kind of paying attention to probably the feedback that people were getting to kind of decide where they're going to go next.
Yeah, because the whole story seemed to be like wrapping up Hawkeye's life. As Hawkeye.
I could see it. I could see it two ways. I could see it as in like it's an ending for if he wants to come back or if he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah.
But also it leaves it open for if he does want to come back, he can.
Yeah.
I mean, we also got the other big reveal about his family was, his wife was in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it's Mockingbird.
Yeah, Mockingbird and Agent 19.
And that made all the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans throw their hands up in the air. No!
The half dozen fans.
Yeah, which I didn't really care because I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after like the middle of the second season. I was like, I'm done.
I think that's about where I dropped off. Yeah, and it wasn't anything out of hatred. I was watching other stuff at the time, and I just never came back.
It wasn't good enough to keep you coming back. Episode after episode.
Well, yeah. Well, for something that was supposedly so intrinsic to the MCU, then all of a sudden got dropped ceremoniously as official canon.
Yep.
It's so weird, because I don't think they even acknowledged the snap by the end, did they?
I checked
think,
out.
So it's an odd thing. Like I'm glad everybody who worked on it got to work for it. Steady job as long as you did. Oh God, I'm forgetting the actor who plays Phil Coulson.
Oh, Greg Clark.
Greg Clark. Or Clark Gregg, and Ming-Na Wen, playing oh God, I'm forgetting her character's name, the cavalry, something, Melinda May.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I didn't have much stakes in it. Yeah,
I dropped off. Civil War happened, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, and I remember them discussing that in the show, or like S.H.I.E.L.D. was no longer S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, it just really just became. I did come back and watch a couple episodes when they brought Ghost Rider in, but even that I was like,
because they used one of the successors, didn't they? It wasn't Johnny Blaze. It was
it wasn't.
I think it was the Spanish guy.
I can't
Rojas or something.
Yeah,
I forgot who he was. But well, they WandaVision introduced like a new organization though, didn't they? That's supposed to, I guess, replace Shield. Sword. Is that something from the comics?
Well, yeah, but it's more of a
I think space program in it.
Yeah, galactic sort of Shield version of Shield. We'll see.
Yep. We got the sword, but we got no shield.
All right, so I guess that's going to wrap us up for this week. I know we wanted to get into a couple other things that Austin probably hasn't. Well, I'm sure Austin's probably watched Book of Boba Fett. By the time we get around to next Thursday, I'm hoping he'll be caught up with that. Maybe even Cobra Kai. I don't know. We'll see what he's up to with that. Any last thoughts before we end the show?
If you're listening, Andrew Garfield, come on back. Let's watch. Let's do some more Spider-Man.
Yes, Andrew Garfield. I know you're watching. Please,
our biggest fan, obviously.
Number one fan, Andrew Garfield.
You were great as Joe Baker. I just watched that movie just the other day. I watched The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Dude, I couldn't watch that.
It's crazy. It was incredible. All right,
y'all.
Later days.
Good night.